Welcome to Freedomist.com's The Daily Freedomist Show. The Daily Freedomist Show. This is the Daily Freedomist Show. Say it again so you memorize it so you don't get it wrong next time. This is the Daily Freedomist Show featuring your host, Paul Gordon Collier, coming at you live on the Black and Gold Freedomist YouTube channel. You can find the excerpts for the Freedomist Show on our White and Gold Freedomist YouTube channel and also on our partner site, not an official Freedomist channel, but a partner site, Actiun Baca, A-C-T-I-U-N-E-B-A-C-A. Be sure to sub to all of those things, and all of the links are down below. And be sure you go to Freedomist.com, and don't forget to support us in all of the awesome work that we're doing. And there's a link right above for you to do that. This is news and intelligence for free people. Accurate, timely. Here's some things that we're not going to talk about today. And let me see if I can refresh this. Why are you not showing the most current news there? Let's get the current news. Okay. So here's some of the things that we won't be talking about today because we don't have time. Utah GOP boos Romney but doesn't vote to censure over Trump impeachment vote. Migrant boat off San Diego coast capsizes, killing 3 and injuring 27. And let's see what else we got here. More ethnic groups, factions join fight against Myanmar junta. And quantum breakthrough promises solar power boost in efficiency. And if you'd like to make sure that you don't miss any of these things, click on that right-hand corner there, the News Watch page, and you can scroll on down and you can see all the wonderful, lovely links that we have to share. Let me there you go. There you go. All the lovely, wonderful links that we have to share. And way more stories that we could ever cover in this show. So this is like, if you use the Drudge Report, use this instead. This is better than Drudge because we're not part of any kind of corpo state nationalist or factional alignment. We are unfactional and uncorpo state nationalist in what we do. So follow us and bookmark this page. You can keep going back to it every day. And when you go and you scroll to the top, you see the Capitalist Manifesto, the end of class warfare towards universal affluence, written by Ralph Benko and the editor, and also my identical twin, the editor of The Freedomist, is William R. Collier Jr., and this is forwarded by George Gilder. You click on the link, and there it is. You go to here, and you purchase this. You can see that I purchased this in April 20th. You see that? Oh, you don't see it. Okay. It's not seen on the screen, but I did. I purchased it April 20th, so I've done that. And now with that in mind, let's get ready to do the show. Get our first story queued up here. Rudy Giuliani apartment raided by feds. Political targeting or legit investigation? And this is a topic report, and this is Rudy Giuliani apartment DOJ feds raid warrant UK. And we're going with Rudy all of a sudden I can't say his last name. Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani apartment raided by DOJ in connection with Ukrainian investigation. And we're going to call this video Rudy Giuliani raided by DOJ. Well, I already said that. Well, there you go. There you go. And here's the headline from Sputnik News. We're using Russian propaganda for this one. I thought that would be quite beautiful. Giuliani apartment raid might have been caused by voicemail hinting he had burner phone. This is from Sputnik News. According to the Justice Department handbook, before pursuing a search warrant for an attorney, federal prosecutors are encouraged to consider issuing a subpoena, but not, however, if it could compromise the criminal investigation or prosecution or result in the obstruction or destruction of evidence. The Wednesday morning raid at Rudy Giuliani's Manhattan home and office might have been triggered by a recently resurfaced voicemail where he hinted at having a burner phone number. In the 2019 voicemail that was included in a December motion in court submitted by Joseph Bondi, the attorney for former Giuliani associate Lev Parnas, Giuliani says he has a soon-to-be-gotten rid of number. I can confirm the veracity of the statement that I made in that reply motion, Bondi confirmed to Newsweek. So this is the justification for going after Giuliani there. So it's interesting, Russian propaganda is posting something which is not really good for Giuliani. So That's interesting. Are the Russians turning on their supposed Manchurian candidate Trump? Which I don't buy any of that. I'm just being facetious there. But Biden says he didn't know in advance about Rudy Giuliani raid. And this is from the New York Post. President Biden on Thursday said that he wasn't aware in advance about the FBI raid on Rudy Giuliani's Manhattan apartment. I give you my word, I was not. I made a pledge. I would not interfere, Biden said in an interview with Craig Melvin of NBC News. I don't know. I doubt that Biden did know. But not because he's right and noble, but because I don't think that Biden is... I'm just going to say I'm highly skeptical of Biden's cognizance at this point. Let's see what he has to say here.
Made a pledge. I would not interfere in any way, order, or try to stop any investigation the Justice Department had underway.
President Biden insisted he had no idea that FBI raid was going to happen at Rudy Giuliani's home in New York City. All right. So there you go. There's that little blunger from Biden. And then we get Rudy Giuliani defiant a day after FBI raided home office, ctvnews.ca. Rudy Giuliani sought to discredit the federal investigation into his dealings in Ukraine. I'll how you word this. Yeah. A day after agents raided his home and office on his daily talk show on WABC radio, Giuliani referred to prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Let's see what he has to say here. Don't do this to me. And let's see. Giuliani said the 6 a.m. search, which he said involved 7 FBI agents, was unnecessary because he offered for 2 years to provide federal prosecutors his electronic devices and to talk it over with them. They won't explain to me what they're looking into for 2 years, Giuliani said in an evening appearance on Tucker Carlson tonight. Giuliani's lawyer, Robert Costello, had previously said proposed meetings between investigators and Giuliani legal team didn't take place because prosecutors wouldn't agree to precondition that they first disclose more about the probe. And that makes sense, actually. I mean, if that's true, I wouldn't think you'd want to disclose more about the probe. I'm not saying that this probe is legitimate or not legitimate. Try to find out whether it's legitimate or not. Good luck. You're going to find on the right, it's, of course, oh, no, it's not legitimate. It's complete. It's probably some degree of both. I doubt that there are many politicians that do things these days that don't have some measure of corruption in their hands, including Giuliani, including everyone that you can imagine. But at the same hand, I doubt that this is an investigation that probably would have happened if it wasn't targeting Giuliani in an effort to get to Trump. This is, I've said in other videos, I think what's going on here ultimately is the DNC, whatever you want to call that machine, that anti-American, anti-Bill of Rights machine that's seeking to entrench corpo state nationalism into our land so that they no longer have any accountability or any competition to worry about. They are essentially trying to Hatshepsut Trump. Hatshepsut was an Egyptian pharaoh, one of the greatest pharaohs, maybe the greatest pharaoh, happened to be a woman. And that narrative that a woman could be a strong pharaoh was undermining to the men of the time. So after she died, well, they went through the process of trying to wipe her out, wipe out all evidence of her, and anybody connected to her, not good, not good. And I think what they're doing here is Donald Trump basically, whatever you say about him, whether you like him, whether you don't like him, I don't think that you can deny that Donald Trump came outside of the inner circle of approved candidates, and he wasn't going along with the inner circle of what I call the Citadelians, and these are essentially the corpo state nationalists that benefit from such things. And he was bucking the trend, and I have a theory that Trump was really he's just trying to get inside ultimately, and he's trying to negotiate, messing their stuff up so that they'll listen to him and negotiate. And I think he is trying to change them somewhat too. But at any rate, they have to delegitimize everything about the past Trump administration only for one reason and one reason only: to make sure that nobody gets it in their heads that anyone should be approved or make it through any kind of filtering that allows them to have any real power in America that isn't approved by state. Donald Trump is like he's like Hatshepsut. Instead of being a woman, he's a non he's not exactly an outsider, but in compared to the inner circle of Citadelians, he's a non-insider. He's an outsider, and they can't allow for that premise. All of the political candidates of all major parties must be approved. This is why Bernie Sanders got so railroaded, because he was also not one of these people. He was like a Trumpian, and you can't allow that. So that's what's going on, folks. Whoa, I didn't start recording yet. I got to record the story before I start talking the story. Although if you're watching the show live, you're probably like, I don't care. I'm watching it right now. I don't care. Hunter Biden still holds major stake in Chinese corporation. Oh, if I had the webcam on, you'd see my shock face. My hands would be up to my mouth. I'm calling this video, Hunter Biden still holds millions in Chinese corporate assets. I don't know if it's how millions-y it is, but it's got to be close to it. If it's not, I'm pretty sure it's millions, though. He looks like a very serious young man there. Well, I guess an older man. He looks about my age, actually. I'm 52, so he looks about my age. Hunter Biden, China big tech protection Tulane. Hunter Biden gets big tech protection in Chinese wealth. And there's some other things interesting going on. This is a man that we know is outside of the Me Too world. He's violated women. You know, he's paid for, not that he's broken the law, or I'm not accusing him or anything outside of using prostitutes in derelict positions, using his significant power advantage, his white man privilege, if you will, which that's a pejorative in and of itself, but he is from that power base. He uses that power. Him and his whole family are now fully in bed with this critical race theory ideology that has given the DNC such tremendous power in the land today. So you're not going to be held accountable, not by their own. Hunter Biden, China big tech protection Tulane, and this is a headline from Daily Caller. 100 days into Biden presidency, Hunter still owns stake in Chinese private equity firm. This is from the Daily Caller. Andrew Kerr, an excerpt. Hunter Biden continues to hold a minority stake in a Chinese private equity firm 100 days into President Joe Biden's term. Business records show Hunter Biden holds a 10% equity stake. That's a significant amount of equity in what seems like a large company. And BHI partners through his company. Scantalis LLC, according to Quink's-Bao and Baidu, two independent services that provide business records on Chinese corporations based on China's National Credit Information Publicity System. Joe Biden promised in October 2019 that if elected president, nobody in his family would have any business relationship with any foreign corporation or country. No one in my family will have an office in the White House, will sit in on meetings as if they are a cabinet member, will, in fact, have any business relations with anyone that relates to a foreign corporation or a foreign country. Wah, wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. Period. End of story. Because his word is his bond. Known plagiarist, by the way, Joe Biden. Was it 1988 he got shot out of the presidential election cycle because of the plagiarism exposure? Let's just check this out here. Let's go with Joe. Come on. Joe Biden. Plagiarism. Let's see. Joe Biden. There you go. 1990. There you go. That's what it was. So, Joe Biden's first presidential run in 1998 created amid multiple instances of plagiarism. Yeah. That's that. His word is his bond. And he's still plagiarizing even to this day. Not that any other politicians aren't also guilty, but it doesn't matter. He's your politician now. He's the one that has the hand of power, and he's the one who says, my word is my bond. No politician's word is his bond, I can tell you that. The only politician whose word is bond is a weak politician who has no power in any party. If they have any power in any party, trust me, their word is not their bond. They couldn't be a major power in any sense of the term in the political world without lying, cheating, and stealing. You don't get to the top of a coercive enterprise by being a good guy, by being a consensual type of human being. The best of the best killers and liars and thieves, these are the ones that rise to the top in these types of systems. type of system we have today, which is only going to get worse because now this is a system that has rejected, just outright, openly rejected the notion of human beings made in the image of God. So now if human beings are not made in the image of God, because critical race theory ideology that the DNC has fully embraced is fundamentally, it's based upon an assumption that we are not made by our ideas, but the world makes us. And all you have to do is change the frame of the world, and you can make people in any image you want. That's what's behind the critical race theory fundamental assumption. And when the state begins to look at you as something which can be changed to fit its will, well, that's when people die. That's when people get arrested, and that's what's happening around the world. It's happening far worse still than it's happening in America, but compared to what we were used to, it's far worse than it was. So this is from Legal Insurrection. Cornell student. Okay, so this is a topic report. So what? Oh yeah, here we go. Cornell student suspended from Twitter for sharing unflattering photo of Hunter Biden. Legal Insurrection. So you see, this is the Corpo State media. They're the Corpo State nationalists, and they use their powers. They're basically their authoritarian market powers. What they have, it's not free market, authoritarian market powers to protect their interest, and they're certainly interested in protecting the Biden family because right now Joe Biden is the face of the DNC, even though that face happens to be somewhat incoherent at the very least. And then from Chicago Tribune, look on the bright side, GOP. Maybe the raid on Rudy Giuliani will turn up dirt on Hunter Biden. A fat chance, because they wouldn't take the laptops that Giuliani offered for them to take. Giuliani opens up about federal raid on Hunter Biden's laptop. Rudy Giuliani claimed the federal raid on his New York City home has nothing to do with claims he pressured Ukrainian officials on former President Trump's behalf. Giuliani told Tucker Carlson that he offered the FBI agents the hard drive from Hunter Biden's laptop, which the agents refused. So, yeah, this headline above here, Chicago Tribune, probably not so much. And then we got Newsweek. Donald Trump Jr. says Chinese investment in Hunter Biden will affect Joe Biden's China policies. Yeah, that's another person. The Trumps. We don't want a royal family, even if it's a resist royal family. Please no. Watch U.S. Senator John Kennedy criticize Hunter Biden's guest speaker role at Tulane. So you're going to have Hunter Biden speaking at a panel to discuss fake news. This is a man who has benefited from the Corpo State nationalists blocking true stories about him and calling it fake news. As a matter of fact, if they had allowed these stories of Hunter Biden to go before the election, even though, it's a mass mail-or election, I doubt even they would have been able to pull off a mass mail-or election if this news had reached the general public that they hid. The news about Hunter Biden with his little laptop and what he had on the laptop and the known Chinese state ties and whatnot. I think I'll end it there. There's more headlines there, but or one more. Or I'll just read it. Editor Daily Rundown: Hunter Biden still owns stake in Chinese private equity firm from Daily Caller. There you go. Okay, Joe Biden proves to be more divisive than Trump in new poll. What a surprise. I know that there were some people, even in my life, and I'm still... when this election, I did not vote. I didn't vote for anyone. I'm tired of choosing the lesser of two evils. And I think that they're all fundamentally corrupt, including Donald Trump. But, if I was going to vote for anyone, it would have been Donald Trump. But I couldn't. I didn't vote for anyone. And I don't encourage anyone to vote until they stop giving us these human beings that have such little character. And they display such little character and integrity in everything they do and say. And we were promised, I was promised by my family members who were going to vote for Joe Biden, which is, I'm still trying to forgive them for that, because there's no excuse, especially because my family members I'm talking about are Christian. There's no excuse for a Christian to ever vote for the DNC at this point until the DNC rejects a few key things. I don't know necessarily you can make a strong case for them voting for the RNC either, but it's not as obvious to me why you wouldn't vote for the DNC. And one of the things they said was, well, we're voting for Joe Biden because after Joe Biden, we'll get back to normal. We'll stop all this hate and shrileries really caused by Donald Trump. Well, it's only gotten worse. It's only gotten far worse. As a matter of fact, this election, this mass mailer election, which is illegitimate right from the start in my eyes, this mass mailer election, it basically emboldened the shrill critical race theory green shirts, as I'm calling them, to do even more. The riots, the burning of buildings, the destroying of human lives because they said one word that you deemed to be racist or bigoted or sexist or homophobic or whatever. That hasn't stopped. That has only increased. This election has only emboldened the worst and the worst amongst us to continue to do what they do, to use thuggery, to use violence and hate and fear to take from those that have, and not to give to those that have not. These are not Robin Hoods. To take from those, like the BLM lady who starts BLM, Black Lives Matter, avowed Marxist, and now has multi-million-dollar homes because she, quote-unquote, is helping her family. They take from those that have so that they can keep it for themselves, because it's a killer ideology. It's a revengetarian. I'm going to say this over and over again. When you have a revengetarian, absolutarian, revengetarian, especially one that's based upon claims of absolute moral supremacism, these ideologies, they don't produce good people, because the kind of people that have to enforce these kind of ungodly standards that ruthlessly murder neighbors for reasons that are not justified, these people must be killers themselves. Otherwise, you don't get the work done. So it's the killers that rise to the top in these systems even more than just in what's natural in politics. This is far, far worse, because there's degrees of killers. There's some people that are willing to kill within a certain range, and then some others that have they'll kill anyone as long as it gives them power. And this is kind of what this ideology is doing. You should look at Oliver Cromwell and the English Civil War and study what happened there, because these are the Puritans. They're taking on they are Oliver Cromwell and the Puritans and what they did. So, well, let's just get to the story, I guess, after all that talking. But it was irrelevant. It's relevant. It's relevant, folks. Joe Biden, Donald Trump poll division polarization. Biden earns more polarizing marks in approval-disapproval poll than Trump did. So Joe Biden, this is from Express UK, Joe Biden is dividing Americans even more than Donald Trump, says surprise poll. The new U.S. president came to power promising to be a leader who would govern for all Americans and who would seek not to divide but to unify. You can't unify when you are literally codifying into public schools the notion that the United States of America is fundamentally a racist country. Not that we don't have significant racism in our country, haven't had it, and that we didn't have systemic racism at slavery and other things, but to say that that's so simplistic and cartoony simplistic. So there's no way that you can unify a country. You can't have a country if your fundamental ideological construct that you use to come to power says that the United States of America is evil, and that white males, especially, well, white heterosexual males, but all heterosexuals and all whites and all males as well, literally invented evil. That's the underlying assumption of critical race theory. Don't you forget it. That's the level of absolute low IQ reasoning that this thing is based upon. So there's no way that you can unite America when you have a divisive, hateful, revengetarian, moral supremacist ideology that created the perverse power that you now have. The new U.S. president came to power promising to be a leader who would govern for all Americans and who would seek not to divide but to unify. However, the survey found that Mr. Biden was seen as anything but a unifying figure by disillusioned Republican voters. According to the poll, 94% of Democrats approve of the new president's performance, while only 11% of Republicans did. Unbelievable. 94%. That means they're about 40-some-odd% of the country. I understand. You don't have a home to go to. Your choice isn't to go from DNC to RNC. Something else has to happen. There has to be some sort of an actual third party that's not the libertarians, because they're not it. The libertarians are not fundamentally framed around an American identity. They're world citizens, not American citizens. You can't build a nation state with world citizens. You need American citizens. And so you need a party that is built upon an American concept. And that concept, to me, the winning concept is King Bill, the Bill of Rights. So we need a Bill of Rights party. But that being said, the fact that 40+% of the country is signed up and on board with this whole DNC CRT party, the party where politics is everything, and we end up with priest kings that get to declare the right and wrong of our lives, and they get to use market thuggeries, market fascism, and eventually state fascism, in some places already state fascism, to murder competition. That means that we don't have a United States of America anymore. There is a remnant of Americans, and it would behoove Americans to find out who they are so they can start building their lives outside of these perverse empires that we find ourselves trapped within. All right. Well, that was a nice light story, wasn't it? Here we go. Let's get a little bit darker. Pakistan PM calls on world to boycott U.S. until it ends free speech Muslims do not like. And I'm going to call this video, Using Hate Speech Allegations, Pakistan Tries to Cancel U.S. Over Muslim Dissent. This is from a Christian Headlines report. Pakistan PM, Muslims, U.S. ban free speech. And this is from the, let's see, ChristianHeadlines.com. There you go. I couldn't see it there for some reason. Muslim countries should boycott U.S. West until they ban the insulting of Islam. Pakistan PM says this is one of the net effects. I don't even know if it's unintended consequences. I think that to some degree it might be unintended, because don't get me wrong, the people that are taking over America today, the non-Americans that are taking over America, this critical race theory people, that's the vehicle of power that they're using, they're not true believers, trust me. Citadelians don't give a crap about black people or gay people or any of that. It's just a very handy vehicle of power that allows them to consolidate power. But so I think this might be somewhat unintended, at least from the Citadelians. I'm not sure their AI and deep learning machines have prognosticated this or not. Maybe they missed it, but I have a feeling that they're not super happy that one of the consequences of using this critical race theory ideology that undermines everything American, that underlines the Bill of Rights standards, that undermines the concept of individuals as divine beings in and of themselves, that it creates tools, weapons of war that can be used by our enemies against us. So they've created the standard of quote-unquote hate speech, which is basically, hate speech in its truest form is basically anything that is said that doesn't fit within the CRT Bibles, and there's multiple Bibles, they haven't coalesced yet. They haven't had their canon moment yet. I'm sure they'll get it eventually, if they have power that long, and I don't think they will, but I could be wrong. But needless to say, that this concept that anything that you say that hurts somebody's ideological constructs, whatever, but in America, it's a certain range of protected constructs. So not all religions. You can blast Christianity all you want. Can't say anything against Islam. You can blast heterosexuality all you want. You can't question homosexuality in any way, shape, or form. You can blast people that are pro-life all you want, but you can't say anything against abortion, because if you do, then that means you're a white supremacist. Even if you're black, you're still a white supremacist. It doesn't matter. You're all white. That's the catch-all pejorative that people use. And here it is. This prime minister, this thug, this is a man that regularly has people arrested in his country for blasphemy against Islam. People have been murdered by this man, by his orders, because they dare say anything against Islam. He wants to use the same, and his tactics are the same as the CRT. If the CRT folks had the power to murder us for our thoughts, we'd already be dead, I'll tell you that, because they've already put you in a classification of subhuman, irredeemable, subhuman. There is no God in you. There is no divinity in you. The only thing that's in you is either their perverse upside-down Christ image that leads you to unnatural feelings for human beings below the age of consent, or death. and this man's right on board with it. He's right on board with CRT. Pakistan PM urges boycott on U.S. and West until they stop people saying bad things about Muslims. Muslim countries should boycott U.S. West until they ban the insulting of Islam. So Pakistan's prime minister is urging Muslim-majority countries to come together and boycott the West until the United States and other democratic countries criminalize offensive speech against Islam. Where are they getting this idea from? I mean, well, they had it before, but where are they getting the idea that this could actually work? They're getting it from our own people, the people that are in power right now, the people that are running AT&T, the people that are running Facebook. These people are on board with it. They are more aligned with what this man says than what the Bill of Rights say, because the Bill of Rights assumes a divinity in allness, an image of God in all of us, and thus it checks the power of the state. It checks even the power of the market. Well, it's supposed to, not that it ever has in America, but it's supposed to. That's another story altogether. So it ostensibly, it checks the power of those with power. If you truly believe that someone is made in the image of God just like you, your capacity to take advantage of your power advantage is diminished. The CRT folks who preach all day long about the imbalance of power and how you have to be aware of your power advantage and act accordingly, they use their power advantage every day. And when they do, the people that are most targeted are we the poors, the people that can't afford the lawyers. These are the ones that get the most hurt by all of these horrible hate speech laws, and market laws are in fact laws at this point, because the state does back up the market with guns. So they're laws, and laws are basically wish lists with guns pointed at people's head. That's essentially what laws are. Not that there shouldn't be some laws in which that happens, but not when we're dealing with speech, certainly, unless we're talking about, well, in general, not when we're dealing with speech. Certainly not when we're dealing with criticizing a religion of any kind, including Christianity. Criticize my religion all you want. I would never want the state to try to protect me from your opinions. We need to explain why this hurts us when, in the name of freedom of speech, they insult the honor of the Prophet, Khan said, according to Al Jazeera. When 50 Muslim countries will unite and say this, and say that if something like this happens in any country, then we will launch a trade boycott on them and not buy their goods, that will have an effect. Yeah, it'll have an effect. The effect will be that we'll just build our own stuff and watch you people die in your own penury because you've adopted another hateful revengetarian ideology that doesn't allow the best of the best to rise to the top and produce innovation that will move your country forward as technology unfolds. So good luck with that. French military, former and current, warned of coup, face arrest. This story is quite fascinating to me. This is a bellwether, if you will, of what might come to America someday soon if Americans start to experience the degree of quality of life degradation that many people in France have felt. As you adopt an open borders policy that allows anyone to run roughshod in your country, you are going to experience diminishment of quality of life for everyone else. Now, I am not on board with rounding up immigrants. I believe in the sojourner principle of my faith, but I'm certainly not for open borders if we're in a nation-state parameter, which we clearly are. It's a worldwide, it's an ecumenical system, nation-statism, and you're surrounded by nation-states. So you should never have open borders in that system, because if you do, especially when you're powerful and you have resources, because if you do, your enemies will surely come through those borders. And the people that allow this type of policy, and that's what's going on here in France, they have an open borders policy where they've let all these human beings come in, most of which would probably be fully, well, if they weren't being led by horrible bellicose leaders, most of them, if left to their own devices, would be happy to integrate with French society. Most of them are good, decent human beings, as well, such as we are human beings. as decent or indecent as us. But more than enough of them, even if it's only 10%, and I think it might be anywhere from 5 to 10%, these folks have other designs, and their designs are to come in to destroy France and to create a caliphate. This is part of many of the, we Christians, we have our denominations that have this kind of dominionism, that we are called to physically take over lands using force and to be the law of the land, and basically have a theocracy in which we are once again ordering people to church. Well, they have that in spades. It's much more prevalent in Muslim countries to have that ideological approach, and significantly portions of the people that they allow into these lands, well, that's what they're dealing with. And what's going on in France is the French government is trying to stigmatize any kind of resistance to this trend, and much the same way that America, I'm going to say the corpo state nationalist America, because this isn't the America that you and I grew up with. This is no longer a republic. Corpo state nationalist America, same tactics, which is to basically label anyone that dissents as a traitor or as a seditionist, or well, it's the same thing, but this is what's going on in France. So what happened was, there's a number of French generals that signed a letter saying, if you keep going in this policy where you keep allowing anybody into our country, and you're going to have a revolution, you're going to have a civil war, because most of France is getting fed up with this. We're done. We want it to stop, and we want the people that are here that are dangerous to be found and rounded up. I'm not even sure how many of them want. Hopefully it doesn't turn into an extremist right-wing reaction, which would be they round everybody up in kind of a pogromic style, some sort of, even if it's not a pogrom of physical death, it's a pogrom in the sort of rounding everybody up and sending them out all carte blanche. And well, I hope they don't do that, but it's very possible. But I think what they're really mostly talking about is just rounding up the folks with known dangerous ties, and trying to, let's not take in so many people so fast. Let's have more of a screening process. Let's be a little bit more responsible to the nation state that we serve, because we do live in a nation state reality. So France threatens coup plotting army staff with jail. This is from dailymail.co.uk. A group of retired soldiers who have raised the prospect of a military coup to save France from radical Islam are to lose their pay and privilege of rank, the country's armed forces chief said today. Now, that was just a few people, but what's happening? 18 serving officers who backed their calls have been threatened with jail. Defense Chief General Francois Lecontois says he will take disciplinary action against the generals and retired officers who were among 2,000 signed an open letter to the French president. Well, there's more here. 18 French active duty servicemen to face military court over blasting Islamist hordes and looming. So you can't say Islamist hordes because that's racism or bigotry or whatever. You're just targeting all the Muslims in the same way. Never mind that we have sitting members of Congress who regularly refer to Christianity as white supremacism. You could do that as an active member of Congress, but you can't do that. You can't dare say anything against Islamist hordes, or Islam. So you can say Islamist hordes. I am not for demeaning Muslims as a whole based upon this group, but there are Islamist hordes. There are true Islamists that are amongst them, even if they're the minority. If you have 100,000 people, for instance, and 10,000 of them happen to actually be killers, you just let 10,000 killers into your country. Islamist horde. That's an Islamist horde. That's what we're talking about here. Each of the identified soldiers and officers would appear before a higher... Well, I don't read to read all of this. I want to... Former generals warned that France could descend into civil war. Now, since I did this report, I did this over the weekend, what I've also learned is that there have been, since that, the list has now grown to 20,000. So even as the French government is saying these French military people are going to be charged or whatever, there are now 20,000 people that have signed that letter, and it's growing. In addition to that, we also have 58% of France approves of the letter. So you have the majority of France, I wish it was more significant than that, that actually approves the letter. So you are basically This is a bellwether for all of the corpo state nationalists out there to see whether the French government can contain the resistance by the poors, we the poors, to their attempt to pretty much control all aspects of our lives. That's what's going on here. And the reason they want to control all aspects of our lives, friends, is technology is on our favor. If we had 3D printing factories in every neighborhood, if we had microgrids in every neighborhood, if we had spread the knowledge of hydroponics and aquaponics and compost toilets and a number of other mesh networks and ability to create local cryptocurrencies using completely secure exchanges, that would be the end of the state. That would be the end of the corpo state nationalist even. That would be end of the large-scale systems that they rely upon to control us, because we're all dependent on large-scale systems, and they can easily kick us out because, if we want anything, we have to get it from one of their systems. So they want us to not discover this, and they distract us with whatever they can, whatever boogeyman they can usher up, to get us to try to kill we the poors. So the left poors and the right poors will kill each other, even though they have far more in common with each other than any of them do with any of the leaders that they actually serve. I think I'll end it there. Meet the corpo state nationalist police state enforcers. Social media algorithms. I tell you, social media is a dream come true for the corpo state nationalists, for the Citadelians that were, and the new Citadelians that have arisen, the nouveau Citadelians, if you were. And I describe a Citadelian basically as being someone who has little to no accountability by any market competition or state competition. So these are the people, they could literally murder and rape a human being and most likely get away with it. These are the Citadelians. And believe you me, many of them, I don't have the papers, but based upon my theory regarding human nature and the reality of power, I have very little doubt that most of these people at the highest levels, the kind of rushes that they get perceiving them to be God himself, and they're all just trying to be God, that they have done horrible things to human beings that they'll continue to get away with, personally horrible things, in the name of pursuing this becoming God rather than seeking to understand the God that is our King. So social media algorithms becoming the new police state censors. And this is an editor's choice report that this comes from. Social media algorithms, democracy, Senate hearings. Senate panel explores whether social media algorithms are a threat to democracy. Social media algorithms threaten democracy. Expert tells senators Facebook, Google, Twitter go up against researchers who say algorithms pose existential threats to individual thought. And this is from Roll Call. A Senate hearing on Tuesday pitted 3 powerful social media companies against researchers who testified that the algorithms used by the platforms to generate revenue by keeping users engaged pose existential threats to individual thought and democracy itself. The hearing before the Let's get more of this. Let's get more. Click on Roll Call. Let's get more. So the hearing before the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Privacy, Technology, and Law featured a bipartisan approach to the issue from the new chairman, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, and ranking member GOP Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska. Algorithms can be useful, the senators agreed, but they also amplify harmful content and may need to be regulated. I tell you what, please do this. Please start regulating, because as soon as you start regulating this, then we can start to sue these companies, because now at this point, I think you should be able to sue these companies because they are de facto governments. This is a government. The corpo state nationalist government does exist, and it's Facebook, Google, Apple. And when they want things done, when they want somebody eliminated, when they want to use market murder on one of the people that resist them, they come together as a team. This is the banks, this is the social media, this is Amazon, this is the NFL. They all come together as one team, because they are, in fact, a government. But if they start to regulate the algorithms, now we could literally sue, because then it's much easier to make the connection that, nope, you're literally imposing government power on free speech. So you are going to have algorithms that are going to be designed to chill speech, to chill dissenting speech, to define whatever falls outside of the parameters of the critical race theory Bibles as hate speech, as violence or terrorism or insurrectionism, whatever phrases that you want to use. And this committee hearing isn't really about serving the people. It's about how can the government, we are largely being ruled by the corporate state nationalist coalition. It's not, I don't think it's a formal coalition. No, I don't think there's like secret meetings. I think it's a de facto type of coalition. But there is still some power that comes from the traditional nation-state parameters. And some of those families are interested in preserving at least some of the nation-state power as opposed to pure corporate state power. And so what you're seeing here is more a fight between the smaller group of people that still derive the most of their wealth from direct nation-state power versus the larger group of people that now derive their power fundamentally through corporate state nationalist power that has no allegiance to no nation state, but yet relies on nation states to protect their assets from getting maybe the justice that it deserves in light of the fact that they've stopped serving their customers. Instead, they're using their considerable market power advantage to turn human beings into horrible, hateful people. There's still a clash there. There's still a little friction there. And this hearing really is about the government power getting some of its traditional power restored back to it. And I hope they do it, because if they do, then the lawsuits are going to be harder for the courts to reject. And make no mistake about it, I don't really believe that we have an impartial court at this point. Our courts are wholly and completely politicized. So we're really at the mercy of our own ability to no longer use any of their products and services. That's what we Americans that are left, especially Christians, but even if we're not Christian, that's what we should be concentrating on, but that's another story. Related to that, I did do a story the other day, and I just want to highlight this again. Rage and hate and profit machines for social media corporate state nationalist. So the necessity of rage, polarization, and addiction to social media profitability, which is from, let's see, where's the headline here? Click on this. So this is social media tech depends on addicted, outraged, polarized society to make money. This is from a Future Headlines report, and I took this from Fox Business. Ex-Google employee, big tech's biz model is a society that is addicted, outraged, and polarized. So not only are they censoring speech that falls outside of the corporate state nationalist vehicle of power, which is this critical race theory garbage, but they are also tweaking the algorithms to continue to keep you in a state of fear and hate. They are, and I've said this multiple times, I mentioned Marat of the French Revolution. I'll repeat it over and over again. I will on this show. Marat is one of my favorite references because this is what they are. Marat was a French newspaper man who basically created fake news, hateful, evil, fake news, so that he could whip people up into a frenzy to go against the king. Not that the king was a good guy, but he was getting people to get whipped up into a frenzy to follow an ideology of fear and hate and moral supremacism. The French Revolution and the English Civil War with Oliver Cromwell, these are the two greatest examples that I can think of that really highlight exactly what critical race theory really is. It's old. It just takes on different forms. It takes on different victims and winners, but it's essentially the same form, which is moral supremacist revengetarianism that will, the people who promise a relief from the violence and the hate that they're fighting against, do so only under the condition that you surrender all of your freedoms and that everything that existed before be destroyed so that they could build anew and they can build humans in their image. Oliver Cromwell was trying to build humans in the Puritan image, not in the image of God, but in the Puritan image. And the French Revolution, Robespierre was trying to build people in the image of a materialist godhead that it's kind of they're the Bronze Age version of this, where you have the priest king. So they're trying to create Robespierre would have been the new priest king, and he would have ultimately been worshipped himself. And that's what will happen in critical race theory. Eventually you'll see the priest kings rise. You'll see the people that start to worship these people as maybe not literal gods, but de facto gods. You see that coming, and that's it. Those things never end well, and this won't end well either. And they won't have the lifespan that Oliver Cromwell had, which is about 15-ish years of rule. Yeah, they won't have that. They have 4 to 5 years at most, maybe even less. And there you go. That's the last story of the day. That's how we're going to end this show. Nice and cheerful and awesome, right? You guys happy about the show? I'm happy about the show. Be sure you go to Freedomist.com, and when you do, click on the Newswatch page link on the upper right corner, or if you can remember, you go to Freedomist.com/NW, and you'll see a whole bunch of links that we update. As a matter of fact, after the show is over, I'll be doing my next round of updates. So a lot of the stuff that you see on this right now, if you're watching the show live right now, it won't, a lot of this, not all, some of it will stay up for a little longer, but a lot of this is going to be gone probably by no later than noon today, Eastern Standard Time. So be sure you go back. And also, don't forget, when you go back, if you haven't bought it yet, buy the Capitalist Manifesto, The End of Class Warfare Towards Universal Affluence, in which my brother, William R. Collier Jr., my identical twin, also the editor of Freedomist, and Ralph Benko, with a foreword by George Gilder, outline the capitalism, the I'll say the more fuller version of capitalism that you could get from Adam Smith, and that is a capitalism that doesn't, the invisible hand of the market doesn't work if the people that held the hand have no virtue. Capitalism only works in some form of belief system that is held by the ones with the power, that gives human beings dignity in and of themselves, that doesn't rate humans by their race, their gender, or even their economic status, that gives everybody agency and gives everybody sacredness. And that's what the Capitalist Manifesto hopes to show, is that what you've seen before they call crony capitalism, and what you see now they call crony capitalism, and I refer to it basically as authoritarian market. It's market authoritarianism is what it really is. It's not quote unquote capitalism. There's nothing free about any of these markets. There's no invisible hand at work. These are individuals highly adept at using coercion as a means of value exchange and control, and they use all of their power advantage to reduce all of us to less and less and less, so that they don't have to worry about competition, folks. This is what it's all about. They don't care about black people. They don't care about gay people. They don't care about transgender people. Those are just the vehicles of power that attack the power that was, so that they can create a new world order in which they no longer have to wake up and wonder if somebody is going to innovate something that is going to challenge their market power. That's all it is. And with that, I end this show, and I will see you guys. I go back to the front page here. I will see you guys tomorrow, 7:15 a.m. Until then, have a good day, good evening, and good morning, and